Hello, dear student. Welcome to our bio class. We had started with chapter number 9, Heredity and Evolution. In this chapter, we had studied what is the hereditary and what is variation. Today, we are going to study some important terminology which will help us to understand Mendel's law of inheritance. So let us begin with the first term, chromosomes. You are familiar with this word. In the ninth class, we had studied what are chromosomes. Let us revise this. A chromosome is a rod-like or thread-like DNA containing structure of cellular organism that are located in the nucleus of eukaryotic cell or prokaryotic cell, and they contain the genes which are responsible for the various characters in an organism. Here you can see the structure of chromosome rod-like. As you can see here, the chromosome contain the genes. So let us understand the next terms. What are genes? Genes is a specific area of DNA on a chromosome that codes for the production of certain proteins that influence a particular character or trait. For example, hair color. Let us understand the third term, alleles. How we can define it. An allele is one of the two or more versions of a gene. An individual inherits two alleles for each gene, one from each parent. Let us understand this with the help of an example which we are going to study in this chapter. As Mendel has taken pea plant various variety for his experiment, so here we are taking the example of pea plant, tall and short plant. How we can express the alleles of the genes. As you can see here, for the height of the pea plant, there are two alleles of a genes. Capital T express the tallness of the plant and small t expresses the shortness of a plant. Now let us understand the next term, that is dominant allele. Dominant refers to the relationship between two versions of a gene. Individual receives two versions of each gene, that is called alleles, from each parent. If the alleles of a genes are different, one will be expressed and that will be called as dominant, while the other will be present but it will be masked and it will be called as recessive. So let us define dominant allele. The allele which decide the appearance of an organism even in the presence of an alternative contrasting allele is known as dominant gene. It is represented by the capital letter. Let us take the example of pea plant. As you can see here, in the pea plant, capital T is representing the characteristic of tallness, while the small t is representing the characteristic shortness. When the offsprings are being produced by crossbreeding tall and short plant, The offspring obtained are of the type capital T, small t. All the offspring are tall. It means that the capital T is the dominant allele and thus expressing itself, while the small t is the recessive, though present but it is masked. Let us see this term recessive allele. Let us define recessive allele. The allele which can decide the appearance of an individual only in the presence of an another identical gene is called recessive allele. It is represented by the corresponding small letter. For example, in the pea plant, we have seen small t is the recessive gene. In this experiment, we had studied that the capital T is the dominant allele because it is expressing itself. The small t, which is the allele for shortness, is the recessive gene. Just see here the offspring which are produced from tall and short pea plant are having the alleles of the type capital T and small t. All plants are tall. It means that the small t is the recessive allele. It is not able to express its characteristic that is of shortness. In the second generation, you will observe a short plant is obtained. This is because the recessive gene small t is present along with another identical small t gene. I hope dominant and recessive alleles of a gene is clear to you. Let us now define the next term, genotype. It is the description of the genes present in an organism. Let us take example of the pea plant. Here you will notice in the F1 generation that the genotype of the plants is of type capital T small t. While in the second F2 generation you will notice that the genotype is capital T, capital T, capital T, small t, and small t, small t. In F1 generation, the genotype of all plant is same. But in F2 generation, the genotype of the plant is in the ratio of 1 is to 2 is to 1. Let us now define phenotype. It is the characteristic which is visible in an organism. Again, here we are going to understand phenotype with the help of pea plant experiment. In the F1 generation offspring, you will notice that all plants are tall. They appears to be tall. That is their phenotype. While in the F2 generation, the phenotype ratio is 3 is to 1. That is, out of 4 plants, 3 plants appears to be tall while 1 plant appears to be short. Observing the phenotype is simple. We take a look at an organism's outward features and characteristics and form conclusion about them. Observing the genotype, however, is a little more complex. Let us now see the next term, monohybrid cross. A hybridization cross in which inheritance of only one pair of contrasting character is studied. For example, in the pea plant, when we take only one character, say the height of the plant that is tall and short, and crossbreed them, then it is a monohybrid cross. You can see here in this figure. In this pea plant experiment, when we have taken two plants of the height, one is tall and the other short, and crossbreed them, then this type of cross is called monohybrid cross. What is dihybrid cross? A cross in which inheritance of two pairs of contrasting characters is simultaneously studied. For example, when we take two characters in a pea plant, for example, green and round seed crossing with yellow and wrinkled seed is an example of dihybrid cross. So you can see in this figure, while crossing the pea plant, two characteristics are being taken. Yellow and round colored seed is crossed with green and wrinkled seed. So this is an example of dihybrid cross. Let us now define first filial generation or F1 generation. When two parents cross to produce the offspring, their offspring is called first filial generation or F1 generation. Let us see through this figure. In this figure, you will see that when a tall plant is crossing with a pure small plant, then they are producing the offspring in which all the plants are tall. This is called F1 generation. Let us now see what is second filial generation or F2 generation. When the first generation offsprings cross among themselves to produce second generation offsprings, then this offspring is called second filial generation or F2 generation. Let us see this figure. In this figure, you can see the F1 generation. All the plants are tall and having the genes of the type capital T, small t. They are crossing among themselves, producing the offsprings. Some are tall plant and some are short. This offspring are called F2 generation or second filial generation offsprings. Let us now define another term, homozygous. It is a condition in which an individual possesses a pair of identical genes controlling a given character and will breed true for this character. For example, occurrence of two identical alleles capital T and small t in a pea plant. You can see in this figure capital T are pair of identical genes responsible for the tallness character. And you will also notice small t, a pair of identical genes which is responsible for the character shortness. They are termed as homozygous. Now let us see what is heterozygous. A condition in which an individual has a pair of contrasting genes for any one character and will not breed true for this character. For example, existence of dominant and recessive alleles in a hybrid tall pea plant. Let us see in this figure. Here you can notice in F1 and in F2 generation two different alleles of a gene, capital T, small t. This is a heterozygous condition. Student, in the next video, we are going to study law of inheritance, which was given by Gregor Johann Mendel. Before we proceed to the law of inheritance, let us know about this person. Gregor Mendel, known as father of modern genetics, was born in Austria in 1822. Mendel discovered the basic principles of heredity through experiment in his monastery garden. His experiment shows that the inheritance of certain traits in pea plant follow particular patterns, subsequently becoming the foundation of modern genetics and leading to the study of heredity. Mendel worked out the main rules of inheritance, and this main rule for inheritance of trait is also applicable to human beings as they are related to the fact that both father and the mother contribute practically equally amount of genetic materials to the child. This means that each trait can be influenced by both paternal and maternal DNA. Thus, for each trait, there will be two versions in each child. Mendel opted garden pea, which is scientifically called Pisum sativum, to conduct his experiment. Mendel selected garden pea plant for his experiment because pea plant had a number of clear-cut differences which were easy to tell apart. For example, tall and dwarf pea plant. Some pea plant produce round yellow seed while other produce wrinkled green seed, etc. Another reason for choosing the pea plant for his experiment was that they were self pollinating. Also, Mendel chose pea plant because many generations of pea plant can be produced in a comparatively short time span, and their study is much simpler than that of animals. It is also easy to recognize their different traits. Mendel's contribution was unique because of the use of clear cut variables and application of mathematics to the problem. Let us now see the seven different characters of pea plant which Mendel has chosen for his experiment. As you can see in this figure, the various characters of pea plant. The first character is flower color. He has chosen a pea plant having purple colored flower and another white colored flower. Second character is flower position. He has chosen a pea plant in which the flower are at axial position and another pea plant having the flowers at terminal position. The third character is seed color. He has chosen a pea plant having the yellow colored seed and another having green colored seed. The fourth character he has chosen was seed shaped. He has chosen a pea plant having the round seed and crossed it with another pea plant having the wrinkled seed. The fifth character was pod shape. He has chosen a pea plant having inflated pod shape and another having constricted pod shape. The next sixth character he had chosen was pod color. He has chosen a pea plant having the green colored pod and the other plant having the yellow color. Now you can see the seventh character which he has chosen for his experiment was stem length. He has chosen a pea plant which is tall and crossed it with another plant which is short. Student, now I will ask you to go through all the terminology and try to understand it, because when we will be discussing Mendel law of inheritance, you will find the use of these terminology over there. Read the book very carefully to understand the chapter better. Enjoy studying. Take care of yourself. Thank you.